So unfortunately, I maxed out my emergency credit card.
Justify every impulse purchase by telling myself I need it.
That feeling where your nails are done, hair is done, and you're wearing name brands, but your bank account is crying in lowercase.
This is day 9 of Living Life Like a Billionaire, and today I'm visiting Gucci, Prada, and Louis Vuitton.
You need a solid business plan. You need the 5-year plan.
I had a friend who looked like they had it all. Nice apartment, new car, designer, everything. But behind the scenes, drowning in debt. An emergency hit and everything came crashing down. Here's the truth. Living beyond your means doesn't just wreck your finances. It can wreck your health, your peace of mind, and even your future. But it doesn't have to be that way. Living within your means is more than just a money tip. It's a lifeline, and today I'm going to show you how it can actually save your life. Let's get into it because your freedom, your peace, and maybe even your life depends on it. It seems like more recently there's been so much going on with luxury. We've got the luxury slowdown, we've got the China expose, we've got influencers lying and faking, some of them selling everything. But one of the key themes that seems to run through all of the changes that we are seeing happening within luxury seems to be the majority of people feeling this unwarranted pressure to seem to be living a particular lifestyle. I think that this is an issue that social media has been facing for some time. I think initially it was born out of creators wanting to get attention.
Keep seeing people talk about this 24-year-old content creator who just bought a house in the Hamptons and then turned around and went and bought a Range Rover, and everybody's like, why can she make that much money and we can't? Like, why is everybody not making that much money online? Why is everybody not posting content and getting on TikTok?
And so if you are able to show the most extreme of anything, you're more likely to get attention. And so I think definitely in the early years of social media, there were some luxury creators who were just being super over the top with their content.
Rules I have as a millionaire. I have to sit next to the best player at all games. I'm only traveling if I'm sitting first class on the plane. When I work too much, I have to go to the best spot in the world. All my besties are also millionaires. I only eat food if it has gold on it.
And as a maybe unknown or unexpected consequence, this did apply pressure to your everyday consumer of content. I think in 2025, there are a few different ways that creators have found to get around this. Usually the techniques used by the creators involve some kind of lie, right? So they'll either fake the lifestyle, borrow the lifestyle, hire the lifestyle, live someone else's lifestyle to get around it. And so today we're going to look into how this desire to keep up with the Joneses, this desire to want to seem to be overperforming or overly successful can actually ruin your life. And this video is actually inspired by a creator called Colourful Noir. I watched one of her videos about the same thing and I thought it was a really interesting take. It seems we can't go a week without seeing another headline about an influencer faking their life or getting in trouble for lying or stealing or something along those lines. And one of the cases that actually made me really, really sad is that of Candice Miller. Candice Miller is an influencer most known for her Mama and Tata lifestyle blog, who is also a politician. She used to share quite a lot of her luxury lifestyle. So she had a very, very nice house and would share all of the nice things with her audience. However, Candice was married to Brandon Miller, who sadly passed away on July 3rd, 2024. And he sadly died by suicide while secretly having $33.6 million in debt. Following his death, Candice did get a $15 million life insurance payout. However, since his passing, Candice has had to sell some of their homeware, everything from furniture to kitchenware, at auction to cover the outstanding debt. Her Mama and Tata account frequently featured lavish displays of wealth, including extravagant parties, designer clothing, and luxury getaways.
Mama and Tata influencer Candice Miller seems to be making a new start with her kids in Miami. Candice had built a successful social media brand around her luxurious globe-trotting mommy lifestyle.
And this is not the only case that we've seen recently of content creators getting themselves in deep trouble as a consequence of wanting to maintain a luxury lifestyle online. There's also the case of Ramon Alawanra and Danielle Miller, who both found themselves incarcerated as a result of committing fraud and money laundering.
9 social media influencers have been charged with promoting an unauthorised financial scheme to their followers. Among them is the Only Way is Essex star Lauren Gujga.
The social media stars are accused of advertising unauthorised financial products. It's alleged that they were being paid to post about an Instagram account that was promoting this unauthorised high-risk trading scheme.
And so it is seeming ever more evident that content creators are willing to risk their life and their freedom to maintain a certain look online, which I think is ultimately connected to money too, right? If you are a luxury content creator whose viewers like to see you doing over the top things, then it just works to almost encourage that behavior. You feel as though you have to do more of that content, right? If you're a content creator, you kind of understand that is the advice that's generally given, right? If you're trying to create a community and you release videos that your viewers like, then the next most appropriate action is to just create more of that. I think we're finding that, especially in more extreme spaces like luxury, it's a very, very hard thing to do. I would argue that you could even be a multi-millionaire and still struggle to consistently post luxury content. And when I say consistently, I mean like daily post different types of luxury content. And also I think a lot of content creating has to do with branding, and branding generally tends to be more aspirational, right? There are creators who get online and unknowingly create a brand, right? Maybe they vlog with their family or they're solo road trippers or something like that, and they record themselves or make content around themselves without knowing that they have made a personal brand. But for those who are more intentionally posting and aware of the way that things work, once you start creating more luxury content, if you want to keep that brand, then there is a pressure to just continue to find a way to be able to maintain that. And I think that this approach can sometimes trickle down to the viewer. I do create luxury content. I do enjoy fashion and luxury lifestyle content, and I really, really enjoy sharing that with you guys. I enjoy living it too, but I'm always conscious of the role that we all play, including myself, in this idea or this concept of having to live a luxury lifestyle and by any means necessary. And so I wanted to share with you guys that it is not necessary. Okay, it's a nice to have, but it's definitely not worth your life. So I wanted to go through some of the ways that you can make sure that you are living within your means. I haven't always been able to enjoy luxury. Life moves through phases, and I think it's really important to work within your limits, right? These are tips that I follow myself. Actually, when I first created this channel, I also created a finance channel because financial literacy is important, more important than luxury. Okay, the first tip being to think critically. Do not believe everything that you see on social media. I think that many content creators make their life out of creating parasocial relationships with their viewers, and I'm fairly certain that I have a mature enough audience to understand that there is some distance between me and you, right? You're my community. I love you. I really appreciate the support. However, we're still just viewer and watcher, right? We can be friendly. I can care about you guys. I can want the best for you guys and vice versa. However, there is still a gap between us. And I think a lot of social media creators target more vulnerable audiences. Many of them target kids, right? Who don't really understand that we're not age mates. We're not friends. You know, we can be friendly, but I'm not your mate. We can have things in common. We can have community with each other. Actually, there may even be some of you that turn out to be real life close friends. However, that is not the case for all of the hundreds of thousands of you who may watch at some point. So I think that there are loads of creators who target that, and authenticity and being real, right, is definitely more of an effective way of growing a social media platform in 2025 than it has been in the years past, right? People are looking for real life, real connections, real authenticity, and I think that it is possible to do that up to a point with social media. However, I think where it falls down slightly is that viewers and sometimes the creators themselves are not always aware that they are creating business. This is business, okay? This is business, and it might not be business first, but for those creators who turn out to be successful, it turns into business. There may be times that you are being encouraged to buy something, or someone's encouraging you to spend your money in a particular way, and it's just really important to just be aware of what's going on. It doesn't even necessarily mean that they're lying or being inauthentic. There are loads of creators like you guys can look through my channel. I don't accept gifted product or sponsors or anything like that. And I don't recommend companies to you guys that I do not use or have not used or don't know about. My next tip is don't impulse buy, guys. Think about, especially when you're making large purchases. I'm sure it sounds super naive, right? But I did not even actually realize that people were buying luxury on credit cards. I was watching one of those massive luxury unboxings, and the creator mentioned, oh, you know, I've got to pay off a credit card. And I remember turning to my husband and being like, do people actually put luxury on credit cards? Which I'm sure is an adult thing to do, but I've just always avoided credit cards. I know that some people get credit cards to build their credit score, but I actually had a perfect credit score without a credit card. I'm not giving you any financial advice, and I'm sure there's probably a reason for that. But as soon as I got a credit card, I made sure, and I make sure, that I am able to pay it off every month. Actually, I just don't. Maybe it's the Caribbean in me, but I don't like borrowing money. I don't actually enjoy using credit. I'll use it because I know if there is a time where I need to borrow a lot of money, that it won't be difficult for me to. But I don't impulse buy. If I don't have the money to buy something, I'm not buying it. And especially when it comes to luxury purchases, I'm sure you guys have heard me mention, I will circle an item like 20 times. The essays in the stores, they get sick of seeing me, okay? And to be honest, I don't really care, because I need to make sure that I'm sure. So I will go through all concepts in my mind. Okay, well, if it's a handbag, what outfits am I going to wear with it? How much use am I going to get from it? If I needed to sell it because, you know, we were strapped for cash, how much would I make for it? And actually, I haven't been so far. This might change in the future, but I actually don't buy bags for investment. I know that there are some styles that do hold their value, and in the back of my head it's really nice to have, but I generally just purchase things that I enjoy. I purchase things that I'm going to get tons of wear out of, luxury or otherwise, right? Luxury, high street, whatever I'm buying, I need to make sure that I am going to get good use out of it. It fits with my lifestyle, even if it's something that's seasonal, because I do have quite a few seasonal handbags. But when the season comes, okay, I've got it in my hand all of the time. I think that there is a time and place for buying more expensive things that you use gently. But for me, that also aligns with a certain time in my life. And that time would be when probably I'm older, you know, my kids are older, I have multiple properties, I'm in the autumn season of my life, and now it's my time to just get the best out of life, or get everything I want out of life before it's time for me to go. Okay, for me, that's the time where I'm gonna make sure that, you know, all the little things that I thought, oh, was just too expensive, I'm gonna get in. Okay, I definitely think that life is made to live, but I think mindless purchasing of things can just make you spiral. So just try to avoid, where you can, impulse buying. If you go somewhere and you see something that you want, leave, and then think about it. And if you want to go back, go back. You guys would have seen in my vlog the Takashi Murakami pop-up that I went to. They had the bag, the last bag, it was display, and I really wanted that bag. But sometimes, you know, we've all got the voices. So I had the one voice that was like, oh, you're never going to be able to get the bag if you leave it here. But then the other voice was like, it was a display. Okay, so do your best to listen to your critical mind. That mind is normally the smarter mind. She knows what she's talking about. Okay, so try and give some time and attention for that mind, and not the ego-driven mind, because the ego-driven mind is just going to be like, buy it, but it's not worth buying it if you're going to have to spend the next year trying to pay it off. Honestly, guys, it's really not worth it. My next tip would be to create financial goals and save. No matter where you are in your life, even if you don't have much disposable income and you can only save like £10 a month, save the £10 a month. Okay, do it. Make sure you're saving. Make sure you have a full idea of how much money you are taking in and how much money is going out. The easiest way I find to do this is to look at your bank account statement. Go through your bank account statement. There are even a few apps that will help you with efficiency. If you connect it to your bank, which suspicious, but if you're okay with connecting it to your bank, it will go through your statements or your accounts for the last month and it will tell you where you can save money. So go through your accounts. Do not guesstimate. If you are guesstimating, overestimate. So if you think your water bill is £200, make it 3, okay? And then do the calculations and then have a full idea of how much disposable income you have. I think when you are single, and when I say single, I mean not married, this is probably the most important part, right? Of course, it does depend on what kind of marriage you have, but if you are married, then there's always kind of a cushiony place, right? I know if I get to a point in a month where I need to pay something, I can turn to my husband and be like, could I have some money, or can you help me with this? Or all of the bills are our bills. So it's his responsibility to also make sure that we are keeping our head above water. And I've found that has really naturally helped. But when I was single, when I was unmarried, I made sure that I had a full idea of all of my incomings and all of my outgoings. And you always prioritize your essentials, your mortgage or your rent. Okay, your bills and your food have to come first before any luxury purchases. The next tip I have is to accept that there is no shortcut. A lot of the time, especially online, there are loads of people talking about, oh, get rich quick, how you can become a millionaire in 60 days, how you can make £10,000 in 60 minutes. How can you guys, for the most part, I have learned that you need to put your mind to something, your effort, your full effort into something for at least 5 years to get real results, guys. Of course, there are outliers, but I think that the best advice I can give is to commit yourself to something with intention for a long period of time. And when I say a long period of time, I mean years before you start looking for results. Okay, so there is a season of life, I think, for most people where you're not going to have as much money as you want. You're not going to be able to do as much of the luxurious or more fun things for a certain amount of time, but essentially nothing in life stays the same. And if you're able to do that season of life well, what comes next is all the things that you like, right? So just keep your head down, make sure you've got everything in order. If you're finding that, I'd like more disposable income, then of course, it's really important to have some awareness of your stage in life. And what helped me to figure out where I was reading. So read books. I will put a few book recommendations down in the description if you wanted to know about particular books that can help you with financial literacy, and not only financial literacy, but how to balance yourself in life and have an innate understanding of where you are. And I think if you are able to have a clear understanding of your goal, then there's almost a bit of a calmness that you can experience where you know where you're going to go and you're just taking a step every day to get there, but you're going to get there. So there's no need to hurry. There's no need to fraud, steal, max out your credit card to get there. There's no rush. You're going to get there. As long as you've got the plan and you take the appropriate steps every day, you will get there. You just have to believe it. And if you believe it, then there's less anxiety about needing it right now. I always notice that people generally kind of just laugh and scoff when rich people, wealthy people, usually celebrities, talk about having priorities or wanting to have different areas of focus. They've got all of this money, but they get to a point where they've got all the money that they're kind of like, okay, what else? I've spent it all, I've bought all the ridiculous stuff, and they're still feeling a sense of emptiness. And so I think all of the learning phases is about making sure that when you get to that place that you want to be, that you're not feeling empty, that you have got all of what you needed from life that sits outside of money and sits outside of being luxurious, because there's lots of things we need that aren't material and aren't experience based necessarily.